Whenever you're ready, Tim.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name is Tim Vicanti, and welcome to a very special episode of the Mitten Players podcast. Today is April 23rd, 2025, which means we are approaching the end of the winter semester, and graduation season is fastly approaching. For those of you who have not been aware, the Mitten Players has been co-produced under Grand Valley Television within this past year, and it's been such a rewarding experience to showcase all of these episodes to the GVSU student body, as well as the general West Michigan theater community. As we approach the end of this chapter, I cannot help but feel a sense of bittersweetness. And what better way to close out this season than with someone who helped us bring this show back to fruition? Our interviewee today is a semi-recent graduate of Grand Valley State University, both in film and video production and theater, like yours truly. She's also been a part of Circle Theater's Virtual Spoon River Anthology series, as well as shows like Trap, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and one of my personal favorites, You Can't Take It With You. Let's change up the scenery a little bit. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Hannah Scout Dunaway. Like Tim said, I am a recent graduate of Grand Valley. While I was here, I studied film and video production as my major and theater as my minor, and I currently still live in the area and I work as a freelance filmmaker.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get your start with filmmaking / the arts?
Yeah, so I kind of found, I say late in life, I found filmmaking when I was like 17 or 18. I took a broadcasting class while I was in high school. We had a program there, we called it DCTC, which was basically like vocational school. So you would set aside a certain amount of time in your school day to learn about like a specific thing. And so I chose broadcasting for mine. And so I did that for a year. I had not planned on going to school for film at all. I had actually considered going to school for theater, possibly teaching. I had looked at kind of all different things, journalism, communications, and then once I got my hands on the camera and we had a fiction project in my broadcasting class in high school, I was decided that was it, and I was going to go to school for filmmaking instead. And so I chose Grand Valley because not many programs, they would have theater majors, but they wouldn't have film minors. And so Grand Valley had the opposite, where I could major in film and video and still keep my love of theater through the minor.
That's also kind of where I went in terms of the experience. I love that. Did you have a favorite movie or movie genre growing up?
Yeah, so I was always definitely a bit of a weird kid. I was shown horror movies far too young. I remember distinctly I grew up in a lower caste family, and so we had a VHS player for most of my childhood. We didn't really have cable. And my dad set up the VHS player in our garage. And I remember when one day he showed me Mad Max, he showed me The Road Warrior, he showed me Jaws, and he showed me Alien. And that was all within like this 24-hour period. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is it. Like this
all in
is,
24 hours.
yes.
Crazy.
I was a huge movie kid. I was watching movies constantly, whether it was horror movies or The Muppets. I was a huge Muppets fan as a kid. I was obsessed with it. And then it kind of continued. There was a show that ran on Sci-Fi for a really long time called Face Off, and it highlighted all of these special effects artists. It was a competition show, and I finally got to put together who the people were that were making my favorite movies, who the people were that were actually making Bruce the Shark, the people who were making the Xenomorphs. And so horror had always been something that I really felt drawn to. And I still make horror movies today.
As it should, as you should. Speaking of, tell us some of your recent film projects you've done.
Yeah, so the last project I directed, it was called Millie. It was actually my senior thesis here, which was a horror film. It was a period piece. And I actually just had the chance to have it play at Capital City Film Festival in Lansing. It was super cool. It screened in an old church downtown, which was really cool to see a bloody movie play in a church. But I also work as a freelancer. So I do hair and makeup, I do special effects, I do wardrobe styling and costume design, as well as basically anything and everything in the art department, whether it's production design, set decoration. So I've done some music videos recently. I do a lot of commercial work. That's a lot of what we get in West Michigan. And then I do narrative features when we get them here as well.
How was your experience with GVSU's film and theater programs, respectively?
Yeah, so I had a wonderful time in college, and I don't know if everyone can say that. I am someone who, I love school, I love academia, I love higher education, but I also realized that there's a lot of faults in the programs, and so I was someone that, I was the only one of my siblings that went to college. Only one of my parents went to college, and he finished a lot later in life. My dad finished his degree at 38, and so I knew I was kind of the one chance in my family to go and get the degree. It was gonna be on my shoulders. And so I did everything I could to make college useful for me. I got involved in a ton of programs. I was always in after-school activities. I took a ridiculous amount of credits. I took way more classes than I needed to because if I was going to be here and spending my money, I wanted to make it worth my time. So I had a wonderful time here. But the overlap of film and theater I think has been so important in not only my education, but who I am today as a person. I love the art department because I grew up in the theater world, because I was helping build sets and designing costumes. And so I was able to continue that here in college. I worked in the scene shop. I took makeup classes. I was the volunteer makeup artist for the Haunted Arboretum for the 4 years it was running while I was still a student. So I really love the programs. I definitely know that there's faults. There's things that they can't cover. But I think that there are all of the resources and tools that if you really want to, they're there for you to use them.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different pros and cons to those different programs, that's for sure. Flipping the media, how did you get your start in theater?
So I got into theater kind of by accident. So I was a sports kid for most of my life. I played travel softball. I was on the volleyball team. I was a swimmer. I played basketball for a little bit. And my freshman year of high school, I realized I hated it. And I didn't want to be doing any of it anymore. Softball made me miserable. I was having panic attacks all the time. And during one of my tournaments, it was a huge tournament, it was the day before my finals of my freshman year of high school. And I was studying on the field because there was no time for me to get my homework done for these finals the next day. And I had enough. And I just told my parents, I'm done. I don't want to play softball anymore. This is too stressful for me. And my dad, thank God, he said, I will support you. You can do anything you want. You're not allowed to come right home after school, though. You have to find something to fill your time with. Softball was where your friends were. This is how you found a community. You need to go find something that has a community again. And I originally thought about joining the bowling team. But right as I was literally leaving school, I saw the audition sign up for John Lennon and Me, which was the play that was the fall play of my school my sophomore year. And I wrote my name up on the sign-up sheet 20 minutes before auditions. I went to the library and I printed out a monologue from Anne of Green Gables, and I auditioned and I landed my first role. And I fell in love. It felt like I had found everything I was always missing. I always felt out of place in sports. I felt like the weird kid, and it finally felt like I had found people who understood me, and then theater became my life. I did every single show. I worked for the theater. I was the light technician. I was stage manager my senior year. I was up in the catwalks changing out the lights. I would do hair and makeup for the theater program. I helped do costumes. I got started the competitive theater team at my school. My senior year, we were able to compete in, I think it's MIFA. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. It was everything to me. And I knew that even if I wanted to go into filmmaking, I had to keep some part of theater in my life because I never would have gotten involved in the arts if it wasn't for finding theater first.
Every theater kid's origin story just happens to land something like that.
Yes,
something very similar
it's absolutely true.
What has been your experience like with the theater scene in West Michigan?
So I've definitely had an interesting experience with the theater scene because I definitely am kind of on the outskirts, but I still like to be involved in it. So my freshman year here was COVID time, of course. And so I did, like you had mentioned, the virtual production of Spoonworther Anthology with the Circle Theater. And I had a great time with that. But I kept taking theater classes. So I was taking acting classes, I did makeup, I did costume design here, I did stagecraft while I was here. And then but I hadn't done a show in years. I hadn't actually been in a show since my freshman year with that virtual one. And so I decided I was going to audition for one of the plays my final year here. And I was the all-cast understudy for the Baltimore Waltz. It's a 3-person show, and I learned all of them. I learned every single character. I had to learn all of these different accents, all of these different languages. I had to learn all of the blocking for the dancing. And I got to go to rehearsal. And honestly, I know sometimes it can be hard when you're doing understudy work because you don't feel like you're seen. But it was one of the best experiences to just be able to be in that space again, to feel the community that theater provides. It's so easy to feel shame and embarrassment sometimes. And I just never felt that when I was in the theater world. I felt so comfortable with them, and it made me so happy being there. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had, was being the understudy for that show and just getting to watch actors and directors do the work. It's so overlooked in film because we're thinking about lighting, we're thinking about the camera, and we have all these other things go on. But I mean, when you're doing theater, you're just rehearsing the acting for months. And it's so amazing actually getting to watch the people put the work in and develop these characters. It's beautiful.
It's definitely a different experience when it comes down to both those entities. Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite show experience that you've been a part of?
Yes. So Baltimore Waltz was definitely my favorite in college, but in high school I did a lot more shows. You Can't Take It With You was one of my favorites that I ever got to do. I played Penny, so kind of one of the lead characters. She was so much fun. I had a blast playing that role. We had things go wrong constantly, and it's that was truly just the show must go on. But I think overall my favorite experience would have to when I did competitive theater my senior year. We did a combination of the first 2 acts or renditions of Check Please. I was never a comedy actor. I don't ever think I'm very good at comedy acting, and I was forced to play a comedic role because part of Check Please is that there's all these different actors. The same actors are playing multiple characters. So I had all these wigs and all these accents and all these different outfits, and it was wonderful. Getting to go to a whole festival where the entire thing is dedicated to theater was amazing. And I mean, I think as most people can relate, theater was kind of looked down on in my high school. We were definitely the more picked on kids. But because my senior year was COVID, we were the only school team to bring home a trophy that year. Oh. And so it was kind of fun to be like, oh, well, we actually placed at state, so how do you feel now, hockey team?
Well, I got a number. How do you like them apples?
It was a lot of fun. That was definitely a great memory.
It's kind of like an overshadow type thing.
Yes. It was nice to finally be like, no guys, this is what we've been working for this whole time. This is what we're doing.
Right. It kind of gets you out of your comfort zone a little bit just for playing something that you're not used to.
Yes.
To an extent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about a dream show or role?
So my dream roles are ones I could never do because I cannot sing, Tim. I love musical theater. I love dancing. I was always in the dance line for all the musicals, but you better believe I was never getting a solo for singing. And so if I could do anything, it would be if I could be Carrie in the Carrie musical, if I could play Regina George, if I could be in Heathers, just to be in a musical and get to sing would be the dream role because that's never happening for me.
Do you have any general pre-show rituals, if there's any that you can remember?
So I had my specific pre-show rituals, and we definitely had ones that we would do as a group. When I was in high school theater, we would always bring a karaoke machine into the femme dressing room, and it was you had to turn off all the lights, turn on the disco ball on top of the karaoke machine, and everyone had to sing Cell Block Tango before opening night of a show. And it's that's the most cringy, dorky theater kid thing ever, but it was in fact tradition. But after every show, when the curtains would close, we would all rush together in a circle and we'd start chanting sports. And it was,
different sports names?
No, just sports. That was our thing because we knew they thought we were dorky and lame. And we, in fact, just did not care. And it was wonderful. We always would do like energy circles before shows, which I think like I still got to do that in theater today. Like zip, zap, zop. Outstanding. Wonderful. Right. But for me, like in particular, I was definitely someone like I would make playlists for all the characters. I would have like music that I would listen to like while I was getting ready for the show. But hair and makeup's always been a part of my life. I started doing makeup like when I was in like 10. Like that's when I got like my first like palette for Christmas, and I was like, this is it. And so the hair and makeup process was huge for me for part of a show. I would always do full stage makeup. I would always do my hair because it just helped me so much for getting into character. And I think that's why now in filmmaking, hair, makeup, and wardrobe is so important to me, because I know what it's like to be the actor. And like you put on the outfit and then like you're not you anymore. You are taking on your character. Right. And I think it's why I'm so pushy now at times when I'm talking to people. I'm like, no, don't let your actors wear their own clothes. Like that's part of the process sometimes, is getting to step out of yourself and into something else.
Raises your confidence, so to speak.
Absolutely, yeah. It does.
Mm-hmm. How do you deal with stress on stage and off?
So when I was in theater, I think I was terrible with dealing with stress. It's weird because theater is so much about like emotions and acting and being able to portray other people's emotions. But I think sometimes actors are actually the worst about talking with their own, because you kind of get in this habit where it's like, well, I don't have to deal with it because my character is. I don't actually have to think about what's going on because they're dealing with it, so I can ignore it now. And I think it actually took me graduating and realizing like hobbies are so important. Your life cannot be your work. I love theater and I love filmmaking. I think one of the best things I ever did for myself though was take a break from it and actually get involved in other things and find out what else makes me happy and where I can actually draw inspiration now. But I think being able to, you have to be able to look inside yourself if you want to be able to look inside a character. And I think that's such a huge part of acting that sometimes we forget. It's cliche, but it's so much about mental health. It really does matter. You should not be playing characters if it's something you've dealt with in the past 2 years. I think a lot of times we think that because we've dealt with something, it means that we're actually going to be better for the role. And I think it's the contrary. I think sometimes it can actually make you worse. There's no point in putting yourself through these hard situations for a character when you've already experienced that as a person. You're allowed to separate them. And I think sometimes we want to combine them and we don't have to.
Right, and kind of adding to that, for sure, I think it's important to at least experiment with different roles to see like what fits you and what doesn't fit you and whatnot.
Absolutely, because you might also be shocked. I hated doing comedy, and when I was doing competitive theater, I won an award for my comedic performance. And I am not someone who really considers myself very funny, but it was wonderful because I was like, oh, maybe this actually is something I can do. Maybe playing against type is actually better for me because I am a bit more of a serious person. Right. But I think stuff like that, like, yeah, you have to be willing to experiment and play different roles, but also know like when to step back and when it's not your time to take on that role.
You just never know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to your younger self or to those who are graduating?
Don't be embarrassed for liking theater. Like, just straight up. I knew I wanted to go to college for the arts so bad. And yet I was looking for schools to possibly be a pharmacist. Because I was like embarrassed of the fact that I was like, no, like I think like I want to have a career in the arts. And you can't. You can't be embarrassed about what you love. You can't be embarrassed about what you want to do with your life, or else you're going to be miserable forever. And I think what helped me was like when I was touring colleges and I was meeting theater professors and I was meeting film professors and I was seeing all these alumni, and it made me realize like these aren't fake jobs. These aren't jobs that only happen in movies. There are actually like real working professionals that do this and they love what they do, and you can do that as well. But when you're like 17, it does feel embarrassing to tell your grandparents that you're going to be a lawyer. Like, no, I want to go to school to learn about like costume design. Like that feels like it's the whole thing of what, like your grandfather's a doctor so your dad can be a lawyer so the next generation can finally be the artist. And it's so important. Like I come from a working class family. My dad was blue collar. He was a landscaper for my whole life. I knew what he had given up so I could actually go and do what I wanted. And I think it's so important that if you have that opportunity to not be embarrassed and to not be ashamed and just actually go for it.
What's next for you?
So I am currently writing my next short film that I'm hoping to be filming sometime this summer. And I'm also working through a feature right now. I really want to direct a feature in the next 2 years. And I'm also freelancing. I'll actually be helping out with the GVSU summer film program this summer and helping a little bit with the art department. I've got another short film where I'll be helping with some creature design. So I stay busy, but I try my best to keep writing my work in between too.
Definitely keeping you busy. That's very exciting. All the less. Where can we find you on social media?
I'm most active on Instagram, I would say. I'm a chronic Instagram Reels user. You can find me, this is really embarrassing. My username is scout.exe. I really need to, after hearing myself say that out loud, I'm gonna probably go change that eventually. Or find me on Letterboxd. It's the same handle. I'm really active on there. I love watching movies. There's some plays you can log on there too, which is kind of cool.
If only we knew the backstory.